Caf. Lots of it. For me and for the Ready Room. I have a feeling this mission is not one we can fly in our sleep.
This is where the fun begins.
It is settled then. My wealth will fund the rebellion while Garm provides our fleet and Mon Mothma our soldiers.
An elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
I had fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure if this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
Are you sure? So be it.
Did you miss me?
I hate that when I'm done with everything and I bring myself in to begin to talk with you, begin the live stream, the mute stays on. Damn. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Caf Chat on G.Starwars channel. I'm your host, Alora. How are you guys doing here this morning? Well, morning for me, like always. And most of all, what's in your mug? Now, I have been saying, get yourself a strong one. Get yourself a shot of espresso or even a nice strong drink. Because today we're going to talk about lore. Yes, we are. But today's a special edition of Cringe Factor. And this is about debunking the continued and repeated, just a different person this time, repeated anti-EU rhetoric, right? And it's kind of funny because, you know, they think that we or myself or us EU elitist narcissist or whatever has never seen these quotes before. And it's never been, these quotes have never been resolved from George or from anything else saying, oh, it's not canon. Or it doesn't say the EU is not canon, right? But they're asserting that's what it means, right? And so they think that, you know, that repeating this rhetoric, even though myself and a lot of you guys and many of longtime fans of George Lucas' era of Star Wars, and even the company has, you know, basically treated it, created it, made statements about the EU that it is canon. It is a part of a single continuity of the canon. So anyways, yes, so Cringe Factor special edition here. However, we'll be talking about lore, talking other announcements, book of the week, LucasFacts, all of that. And I'm so happy to be here with you guys again. I missed you last week, but I was with my daughter down south and, you know, helping her out and visiting and all this stuff. So I was just enjoying myself. And I was leaving Thursday afternoon. So I just wanted to have the extra morning and time with her just to visit and all that, you know, family first. That's always how that is, family first. And you know what? The rumor is, I heard that my channel's dying. My channel's dying. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, you know, I get, you know, subscribers. I get steady subscribers. I'm growing slow and steady because the content of my channel is not fast reaction about the culture war, I guess you could say, and news and in Hollywood and media and stuff like that. And my channel's not about that. My channel is strictly George Lucas era Star Wars. So of course it's going to grow a little slower because it's not about all that. And that's fine with me. But it's not dying. I haven't lost any subscribers. I haven't really had any halt in subscriptions or anything like that. So that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. But anyways, back to the topics at hand. How are you guys doing? Now, please hit that like button, like, subscribe, and share. And if you're catching the replay, thank you so much for tuning in after the live. I'm so thankful for you guys as well. And leave some comments below. Let me know you were here. Say hello. Maybe talk about something we've talked about here, creating discussion or what have you. I love to hear from you. I love to hear from you. And of course, I'm trying to reset my streaming on Rumble. I think I shared one of the wrong links. I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know what I did wrong. Last time I set it up right, and I was streaming over there, and it has stopped since. So I'm going to go investigate that a little bit more. Busy morning. I have some interesting things to share with you, but I'm going to go ahead and start saying hello in the chat. So we have Soul Assassin. You want $500? $500? I need to put that clip on my thing. I meant to, and I forgot to. $500? The bubble boy. And smash that like button and tell a friend about the stream. Yes, thank you so much, Soul Assassin. Thank you again, Vato, for your continued support of this channel as a mod. I appreciate you. Get 10 likes and OG will acknowledge the greatness of Grogu. You know, if I was presentable right now, you would be seeing me flipping you off. Okay. But I began teaching at a new studio. I have Wednesday evenings. This studio I teach, I get paid per hour. So I go in like a certain time before my class starts and thus do stuff around the studio. And then I leave half an hour after my last class. So I prep now, Caf Chat in the morning, Wednesday morning on Tuesdays now. So I used to prep in the evening time, sit down and have put on a movie or visit with family and prep Caf Chat. And so my schedule's changed a little tiny bit. Yeah. So so that's another news event for you guys. Just an update on OG Star Wars. Again, channel's not going anywhere. It's not dying. Nothing's happening to it. Yeah. But you know, my hair is messy because I could shower over there. So I shower before I drive home and stuff like that. And I just didn't fully wash my hair. So my hair is like total, just kind of, I need to get it cleaned. So shower time. No. All right. Good morning to you, Iron Inquisitor. Good morning to you. What's a morning? What's a morning? What's a morning? I don't know. Sometimes people wake up in the middle of the day and it's morning. Have you ever, if you've read a lot about Han Solo in the George Lucas era of Star Wars, I wish I could cite the book exactly, but I think it was Leia or Jaina or Jason, like one of them three that were talking about Han Solo saying morning is the time when you wake up. So that's pretty cool. So I want to find that clip and use that here too. So that's another one I need to find. And I do see I have a super chat, so I will get to it here pretty soon. And let's see here. I'm just scrolling down. Hello, good morning to you. Well, good morning from California, Scran. I know you're like 9 hours ahead of time. You're like in the future. Oh my God, you're so futuristic. Yeah, so good morning from the West Coast of the United States. All right. And whoa, OG's doing something wrong. Shocking. I know, with Rumble. With Rumble. Yeah. And then let's see here. And I'm scrolling down, trying to get everybody in as I go along. If I miss you, I'm sorry, but you are always welcome here. And hello. Decrepit is here. Hey, all. Good morning. Good morning to you and Bunce Books. Hello and good morning, OG and chat. Good morning for you. $500. Yeah. And then let's see here. Excuse me. Let me take a sip. Oh, coffee's good. I don't have something particularly strong right now, but yeah, like I said, get something strong because we are gonna have an interesting. I did some fucking work. Okay, I did some work for this. What we're gonna talk about. So I'm always doing work. I'm always doing extra, you know. So I'm excited about what I do here for you guys and creating topics and stuff. And Chio or Wesley. Good afternoon. Disney Star Wars is not real Star Wars. No, it's not. It's a name only. And get your books here. The thrift books is a good place and stuff. However, I had one person, I think it was Purist, and I think he ordered a book from there and the quality wasn't as expected. So yeah, I'm kind of bummed on that. Hey, Melissa Lord, a channel member. And again, this Sunday, channel member book club. We are finishing the last half of book 6, I think we're on. So come join in, become a member, and hang out with us Sunday evening. $2 from Jacob. Hey, Jacob, how are you doing? This channel triggers me. Well, thank you for giving and supporting to this channel to let me know you are triggered. You are friggin' amazing for doing that. I'm so happy that I trigger you. And Lucas Gerson, hello there, everyone. And Faithful Medina. I don't like it, these how it switched to at. Yo, what's up? How are you doing? And we have Grandmaster Chris is in the house. Good morning. And another super chat, $4.99. $4.99. Best EU channel ever. Ever we. Typo while driving. That was fun. Forever. We. Sorry. Like you're driving down a hill. Oh, I'm in a good mood, you guys. I'm in a good mood. Right. And I had a little bit of time with my granddaughter this morning. I got to hang out with her before I got started when I was doing some different odds and ends on this side of the screen here. Getting stuff ready for Caf Chat and taking care of something on Twitter X, and all that. So I got to hang out with her and she got to help out. And help out meaning that she was just there smiling at me and just cooling away, talking to me. Derek Lopez, hello there. How are you doing? Let's see here. I need to do a painting stream. I need to, there's one last thing I need to do to Darth Zana and her Sith Eye image. And then let that dry and then varnish it. So maybe I'll do that and then I'll sketch out the next Sith Eye and have a conversation with you guys, hang out. I think that would be fun. This Friday, tomorrow, I begin eating classes in my studio and stuff, so it won't be Fridays. Not until I'm done with that. Time to dunk these anti-EU rhetorics once and for all. Oh, yeah, I would like to say that it's the end of it. I would like to say Calcite is here, and we have electric progression is here. AOT. I'm sick of these know-it-all brats who won't accept when they're wrong. I know, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. And Faithful says, I'm here to learn more about the EU. I appear to have the Old Republic mapped out and the Clone Wars projects, but leading into Luke's new Jedi Order is a bit complex. Yeah. We do have everybody who has their expertise in some portion of the historical timeline of George Lucas era of Star Wars. Old Republic, I know Soul Assassin, a lot of people I know absolutely, that's either where they began or their favorite game area and all that. So feel free to ask questions. If I don't get to it, then one of them will. So that's what this is all about. All right, this channel, if you're new here, This is about talking about the lore, George Lucas era, Star Wars, basically. Books of the week, LucasFacts, and also Cringe Factor, Disney Star Wars news, and all of that, and whatever topics, announcements, and stuff that comes up. Typing while driving, laugh out loud. Scran is such a bad influence on us, and drive safe, yes. And I have, like, if I do need to text someone back, either I will try to send a voice note, or if I'm at a red light. But I know you're not supposed to do that then either, but that's what I do. That's what I do. All right, let me take a sip here. I still have to, excuse me. I still have a lot to take in for the Clone Wars multimedia project. It's huge, but the TCW is not one of them. It failed to capture what the originator had been doing. Right, I know. And hello, Nazo. Whoop whoop. EU Tom baby. And Iron Inquisitor. It is a certain trooper going to be the subject of this video? Yeah. So I got to pull up. I'm going to play certain sections of the video that he did against Gatekeeper Alliance. And I have this here. So many people still think, well, I wouldn't say people, a person, and I should have pulled up the tweet, but J.I. Jacob, who left me a super chat, thank you so much, thinks that the Phantom Menace and Gatekeeper's Alliance are the same or whatever, but they're not. And here we go.
Fuck the Phantom Menace.
Fuck the Phantom Menace.
There we go. And I know I have gatekeepers watching. Shout out to Purist, our bane of the shills, and who can only watch and not participate. I am trying to correct whatever I did for Rumble so that I could stream over there. So hopefully by the end of this week, I'll have it taken care of. But here's to my fellow gatekeepers.
Because there's a fucking gatekeeper. There's a fucking gatekeeper.
Right. And so cheers to you guys for holding it down. And, the thing is, Gatekeepers Alliance is about the integrity of George Lucas' era of Star Wars. It's not about the EU. And each one of us has a certain contribution that we do for our channels and even on social media in general that contributes to it. My channel holds steady for George Lucas' era of Star Wars. The only time I address any type of shills or any type of BS news and stuff is Cringe Factor. My channel is not a full-on exposed shills, fence riders and stuff like that, but absolutely, I will talk about it. I will talk about it here. And Star Wars Marvel Purists, our bane of the shills, is about the integrity of classic Marvel and Star Wars. And of course, he does, do more extensive on the shill and fence riders. And Tim, he goes into many different areas of his interest in the culture of of all the franchises he loves and stuff like that. He gets into politics and then also calls out the shills and fence riders. And then we have Mr. Grizzy, who is basically over here protecting the integrity of his franchises like Star Wars, stuff like that, by particularly addressing all of that firsthand, and does it in such a fun and entertaining way. And it's funny that some people think that they are not being made fun of or talked about, and they are. And then of course Malvin 100% is about destroying Disney Star Wars, and he goes at all ends of it. So we all contribute our own way, and that's what makes us unique, and that's what makes us such a strong foundation in the integrity of George Lucas' era Star Wars and beyond. And I am so happy to know these guys and have the stance with them. Yeah. So anyways, let's get going here. What did I want to pull up here? Let's get into I see another one. Oh, goodness. Thank you so much. I was looking at a different screen. So thank you so much. JIA Cub, $2. Rise of Skywalker is my fave and is also Peak Fire. Woohoo! Well, thank you so much for spending your hard or I don't know. Is it hard-earned cash? I don't know. But anyways, thank you for spending that on me and supporting my channel. You know, not everybody has good taste, but hey, you know, that's something we have to live with, right? That's something we have to live with. All right. Would y'all believe OG is the meaner one? I'm actually the nice one here. Oh my God. It's like, when I like X or Twitter X is the place where I do a lot of my work, the shill work, like anti-shill, fence riding, all of that. I do all that work there, right? And when I get into countering, debating, and what have you, I do it civil. There's a lot of things I do civilly until it's provoked, until they get stretched to their limits and start calling me names and stuff. But I'm the mean one. I'm the mean one, you guys. And a lot of these guys get triggered by this woman here, and it's so fucking funny. It is so fucking funny. But hey, you know, it is what it is. You know, your parents didn't teach you to be resilient and teach you to know that sticks, that old adage, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt, right? You know, many of us, especially as Gen Xers, I guess you could say, knows all about that. All right, let's see here. Melvin still knows more about Star Wars than Shield Trooper. He sure does. Snap speed. There you go. It's my mom's money. Oh, I'm surprised you didn't super chat me with that. You must ran out of her money, right? Or she must have took the purse away from you. My goodness. Huh? Some people are like, what the fuck's going on here? Someone thought I was mean for being blunt with them. You know, that's the thing. People just, they're too fucking soft these days. Me being a know-it-all, I guess you could say, or being accused of a know-it-all, knowing my lore, researching my lore, willing to go and research if I don't know, willing to say, hey, I fucked up, I got that wrong, or whatever. But because of that, and because I'm like, hey, dude, that's not how this happened. Here it is. Like this, it happened here, or the EU has it here, blah, blah, blah. I'm a narcissist because of that. I'm a narcissist because I share the lore. I know the lore. I'm willing to research it. I'm willing to talk about it. I'm willing to correct someone who is wrong about it, because knowing is half the battle, right? If you're getting it wrong, like if I'm getting something wrong, correct me. I'm good. But there's people out there that get so offended for being corrected. And I'm like, oh my God, how did you even pass school? Like writing reports and teachers correcting you to make yourself better. How in the hell do you expect to like evolve in your own personal life if you can't take criticism and you can't grow from them? That is fucking weak. All right. So Calcite says, I don't know if you are the real deal, J.I.A., but maybe you shouldn't be stalking about just get attention. All right, let me see here. Let's see here. At G.Starwars, I'm requiring to receive $500 from watching the stream. Snort, snort. That sounds like more like a pig and not like trying to like suck something up through the nose. I know, I did it. So if that made you laugh, I'm glad. Let's see. Hey, OG Star, speaking of the subject, has Darth Momo come after you yet? Just asking. Oh, yeah. I've been like not even like what, 6 months ago or something like that. It's all good. It's again, all that stuff, the actions through LucasFilm debunks it. The statements through LucasFilm debunks it. But hey, you know, people hard-headed or hollow-headed can't see the connection. Griff Trooper is triggered teenager in a man's body. All right. And JIA up $2 super chat. $2 gonna make you holla, right? Guess who's just found their dad's wallet? Punch it. Wow, nice. Punch it. Okay, Kat, you need to go and stop playing with my stuff on my table here. All right. Chio says, I tried to segregate myself from Disney Star Wars shills. Yeah. There's some people that do. And, you know, more power to you, because why give them the attention? Why give them the energy? You know, so, and I'm not the kind of person that says, oh, I'll do you, like how people say, oh, I watched it for you so you don't have to watch it. You know, I'm not, you know, countering shills and stuff. It's just my nature to do so and stuff, correct, share what is accurate, because there's this revisionist history. If you don't see it in the politics of like education and stuff like that, it's even in the franchises now. So, you know, you could type in New Jedi Order and all of a sudden all the Rey movie information comes up, you know, and that goes with certain things and aspects of original Star Wars. Typing in a certain name will send you straight to Disney stuff. So revisionist history. Let's see here. J.I.A. Cup meltdown. Well, I'm glad that he's obsessed to give my channel some money and make it rain, baby. Thank you so much. Holy shit. These kinds of softies won't hear negative criticism until they're in their 20s and 30s when their boss fires them. Oh, yeah. And yo, diddly squat, how are you doing? All right, so before we begin everything here today, let's go ahead and one thing I'll get into real quick is, I don't know if you guys ever seen or heard of or been through like getting a copyright, your Twitter X locked for a copyright. So I woke up to that first thing in the morning. I was like laying in bed and I was like waking up and I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and check Twitter. I'm laying here. I'm not really moving just yet. So I was checking Twitter, log on. I get this notice that I'm locked out on my Twitter. And I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't really say anything negative to anybody. I'm careful with my words. And then I was reading through it and it was a copyright. It was about a copyright. And you know what the thing is that I'm not getting paid. I'm not monetized on X. I'm not monetized because I don't want to be monetized on X. And so I was like, why the hell am I getting a copyright and I'm not monetized? I'm not making money off of anything here. What the fuck's going on? And so I was reading through it and it's not giving me any details of where the copyright come from, who did the copyright, or what post I did for the copyright. And in order to unlock and have access back to my Twitter X, I have to read all the copyright information on how to dispute and all this other stuff. So I'm like, oh, fuck. And I'm like sitting there, laying there, and I'm like waking up and I'm like, I don't even have my fucking coffee for this. And so I go through the motions. I screenshot it, go through the motions, and all through it, it still didn't give me any indication on what it was about, what post triggered this copyright. And so I get it. My channel's unlocked. And then I'm chatting with Knights of Melvin, Darth Melvin, and them. And he's like, well, did you click on the dispute link? Because it tells you if you want to dispute it, click on this link here. And then it tells you what you have to provide for the dispute if you're going to dispute anything on X. And basically, you got to dox yourself for it, because the information goes over to the source of the person, to the people or the company or whatever that is, claiming copyright. So he was like, maybe you should click on that. And I was like, I didn't even think about that shit, to see who did the strike on me or whatever it's called. And then it also told me that if all this is sent to my email, if my account has a linked email. And so I do. So I go over there, I sit down, have my coffee, go over there to see, and there's no email whatsoever about this copyright lockout of my account. So that was fucking weird. And then so they're trying to say, oh, what if it's this post or that post and stuff. And I'm figuring if anything was striked, then that post was taken down. So I don't know. And now I can't go back in my history or back into my settings to review the strike either. There's no way to do it. I can't find it right now. After I'm done here, I'm going to investigate a little bit more. So that was weird. That was fucking weird, you guys. It's like woke up to this being locked out on my channel. I'm like, oh fuck, who did I insult this time? And what did I say that triggered X to say that I violated their terms? It wasn't that whatsoever. So that was my morning. That was my morning trying to figure that stuff out. And so that was friggin' crazy. That was friggin' crazy. All right, so let's get into our little segues here of LucasFacts and our book of the week, and then I'll go to what's going on with John Williams. No, he's not fucking dead. So we're gonna get into that here. So let me go ahead and let's get into LucasFacts.
That's great.
It's gonna be great.
That's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
That's gonna be great.
All right, so we all know the history of TCW and who was hired for it, right? Dave Filoni. But did you know anything else other than that? Like what the ideas were for George and who he intel, who he wanted personally to oversee TCW, TCW. Damn, why did I just blank on that? And the animation department. Yeah, so there's a lot of people who don't know this. And I did leave on a thing on Twitter that, it's going to be, LucasFacts going to have some, some interesting facts of the studio, blah, blah, blah. Like I sent a post out about that. So George Lucas wanted to bring Genndy Tartakovsky, and I think I spelled his name wrong, his first name, in as he explained his studio to oversee the TV shows, particularly the Clone Wars. He was impressed with Tartakovsky's Clone Wars. They negotiated terms and contracts for overseeing the TV shows and making original features. However, the negotiation fell through and Tartakovsky turned down the job. So many people, and Filoni has even said this himself, that he was personally hired and picked by George Lucas for TCW. Like he was the only one, like he was the person that George had his eyes set on. That is not true. That is not true whatsoever. It was Tartakovsky. And Kathleen Winder, I think her name is Kathleen, or Catherine Winder is the one that personally hired and overseen Dave Filoni. It wasn't George Lucas whatsoever. It wasn't him whatsoever. So this right here, if you didn't know, woo, groundbreaking. Now just imagine if Tartakovsky took the deal. And the only reason why he didn't take the deal is that he knew that he was negotiating with George Lucas what he wanted for this deal, because he knew he'd be there for at least 20 years overseeing a new department, what have you. And because that negotiation deal fell through and he didn't get what he wanted, he stepped away because he would have to relocate with his family and all that stuff. So that deal didn't go through because, everything, like they couldn't come to terms with what they both wanted in meeting in the middle. And that happens. That's business. That happens. And we end up with Filoni, who was not hired directly by George Lucas or picked directly by George Lucas. Catherine is the one that hired and brought him in. Calcite says, all I can ask is why didn't Catherine Winder hire Glenn Murakami after seeing Teen Titans? I think, for TCW after that. I wish I could answer that, Calcite. I wish I could answer that. That will be unknown. That will be unknown. That is lost to mystery now. While I like the Clone Wars 2008, I still think that the Clone Wars 2003 was far more superior. Okay, that's fair. I mean, I don't like it. There's some aspects of it that I do like, but majority of it, it's not my favorite. It contradicts not only the established lore, but also the movies within the established lore. So there's all that. Yeah, so there's all that. Let's see here. In Infinity Multiverse for $2 to make you holler. Filoni, the wolf sexual. There we go. Yeah. So he was brought in, and thank you so much for the super chat. He was brought in through I guess you could say HR hiring process, but not specifically George Lucas. And so I thought that this right here would be something interesting for LucasFacts, because that is basically LucasFacts. George Lucas wanted Genndy. He wanted Genndy, but the negotiation and everything fell through. And and we got what we got. We got what we got. We can only sit here and just imagine, or try to imagine, what may have come if Tartakovsky Genndy got what he wanted in the negotiations. I wonder what other future movies and stuff like that, or films, or productions we could have got other than, Clone Wars under Tartakovsky. And would we have gotten Underworld? Could that have successfully been made if it was under Tartakovsky? Who knows? Just something to think about. I think Tartakovsky wanted to do his own thing, and his wife was looking for a house at the time. Yeah, he wanted to oversee. He wanted to propose like different features, basically film features and stuff like that, and help produce Clone Wars as well. So, but George basically had his mindset on what he wanted, and like the negotiations fell through, and here we are. Yeah. So they were looking for a house through the negotiation, because they realized that this would be a commitment. And so he laid everything on the table. Smart man. He laid everything on the table, and it just fell through. And hey, what can we do? Subscribe to Scran. All right. The only positive things, I'm like very blunt, subscribe to Scran. He basically did a great video. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch his latest video, check it out. The only positive thing about TCW I still like is that it had a banger soundtrack. Okay. Dave Furry Loney. Let's see here. Melvin, the Knights of Melvin. And they've been, and I've been following. I haven't covered it here, but the money dispute, $500 between Joshi and Theory, and what's going on with that. So it's been quite interesting. These events coming down the pipeline, crazy as hell. And it's not a smart move under Theory to say, hey, you can share what we talked about. That wasn't a smart move, but hey, it is what it is, right? I felt like Filoni broke too much of Star Wars canon. Anakin Skywalker did not need a Padawan. Yeah. And let's see here. I still have TCW DVD just to provide footage, but I haven't gotten to the part just yet, but I'll watch 2003 version. And yes, there are 3 seasons. All right, so let's go ahead. Oh, another super. Here we go. JIA Cup. $2 super chat. I love to be one of Filoni's wolves. Ayo, bark, bark. Ow. I was the Ayo. Ow. Furry confirmed right here. Furry confirmed. He'd rather wander in the forest as a furry for Filoni than wander the desert and have Filoni piss in the mouth. So there we go. 2 different aspects of this. Gross. Oh my God. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go on to the next segue here. Let me see here. Where is it?
I hate to say it, but it looks like the item you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
There you go. And none of Disney Star Wars appears in George Lucas era Star Wars records, so it doesn't exist. So what is our book of the week? Well, I want to say thank you to Matt Wilkins. I was figuring out what type of short story I wanted to share this time for book of the week. So basically a short story, not necessarily a book, but still I still want to honor comics, short stories, source books, all of that, not just the novels. And so I was like, I want to do a short story, but I was undecided. And so I was like, I'm going to text Matt Wilkins. So I did. Had a little chat with him, and he recommended this book right here, or this short story right here. And it is Rebel Base by Kathy Tyers. The illustrator is Tom Fowler, published September 2001 in Star Wars Gamer 6. So if any of you guys ever have copies of your Star Wars Gamers, that story's in there. You know what I'm talking about. And the timeline is 2BBY. So continuity notes, there's no continuity like hiccups or anything shared continuity wise. I would say that this is in the timeline of BBY, and I wouldn't say it's a standalone story, basically that it's separate from any type of timeline, but it's its own story at its own time. And it's about, it's the Rebel, I put Bass. It's the Rebel Base, Star Wars Gamers number 6 from Kathy Tyers, where a musical band who are spies for the Rebel Alliance go on tour playing different notes and songs as secret codes to Rebel agents in attendance. So there you go. So having many different sources of spy networks for the Rebel Alliance and stuff. So nice little story here if you haven't had a chance to read it. I didn't even think about looking up the link so you can find the story, so you can just read it on a PDF. I'm sorry. Get distracted sometimes, with family stuff. So, but anyways, so if you can find it, it's not Bass, it's Base. But anyways, our Base. Yeah, I did spell it right. Dumb Laura. All right, so Rebel Base. And yeah. It's not listed. Not listed where there's a Wikipedia for it. There is a Wikipedia. I was like, is there a Wikipedia for this? Did they miss the story? Because I still think like Wikipedia may not have gotten every little story aspect within the George Lucas era of Star Wars. So yeah. But I think you can find. Oh, you're looking for fan audios. Okay, Soul Assassin. And I think you can find Star Wars Gamer 6 PDF form online as well. So I will have to look that up and share it here on my YouTube post for you guys and in my YouTube communities. So there we go. Now, I don't hardly do anything in YouTube communities. I haven't done hardly anything in there for a while. I wanted to encourage everybody who's a part of that to share conversation about George Lucas era Star Wars. It's not there to bash Disney Star Wars. That's not what that community is about. Or bash or talk what you don't like. I'm like bash. Oh, we're gonna bash it, but it's what you don't like and all this other stuff. So I have Rebel Base in my e-reader. Cool. I like that. I'm looking at yeah. That's pretty cool. So thank you, Matt Wilkins, for giving me this recommendation for Book of the Week. You are freaking amazing, and I hope you and the family are doing well. So here is the announcement I wanted to make here. I don't know, some of you guys may know this already, have seen this, and may not. So I figured it is something that we need to share, or I need to share, in honor of this man right here, John Williams. So the Hollywood Bowl stage has been dedicated to composer John Williams. It is the first time in the Bowl's 103-year history that the stage has been dedicated to an artist. So you know how like you see like dedications of highways to certain officers, or dedication of buildings to certain artists or composers and stuff like that. The Hollywood Bowl is dedicating has dedicated their stage to John Williams. And so there'll probably be a plaque there in his honor for his contribution to movie scores. So the Hollywood Bowl has become synonymous with John Williams' music. His scores have captivated generations of filmgoers, and his concerts at the Bowl have defined what it means to experience film music live. This dedication honors not only his artistic brilliance, but also the way he has helped shape the bowl into the most recognizable stage for symphonic film music. So I have never been to the bowl personally. I've been by there. I have seen it, but I have never been there as in to listen to any concerts. But that place is beautiful. It's big. It's amazing. And so congratulations to John Williams for his dedication on making these scores for our movies that we love, especially Star Wars. And I think it was George. I should have pulled this up. All these should have. I should have, would have, could have. But anyways, I believe it's George that basically opened the door for these type of scores and the dramaticness of the scores for films, for like different scenes in films and stuff, from the quiet contemplative scene like Luke Skywalker in the Binary Sunset, to dramatic, space battles and stuff like that. I think that he set the bar for that. And through John Williams, and John Williams took up the project and boy was he successful, man. He, like, let alone, like George had said in an interview, I think it's an interview or whatever, that take like mute the conversations and just listen to the movies with just the score, and you could still get an idea of what's going on. The music sets the tone as well as the script, as just the regular the conversations and everything going on in the movies. Oh my God. No, George didn't physically write down the notes, not canon to Star Wars. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Thank you so much for making me laugh. Oh my God. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh. All right. So we are going to get this. Like I said, today is a special edition of Caf Chat for Cringe Factor. I was going to make this Caf Chat briefing because of that. But I was like, no, I want to sit and chat with you. I still want to do more or less LucasFacts and talk about that, and Book of the Week and talk about that, and the announcement that came through about John Williams and talk about that. So what is your favorite score from John Williams? It doesn't have to be Star Wars either, but do you have a favorite score from a film that he contributed to? What is your favorite? What is your favorite? I want to hear it. Before we move on into the next topic, I want to hear it. Let's see. Illustrating how dumb anti-EU rhetoric is. I know, and that was hilarious. That was friggin' hilarious. So what is your favorite soundtrack score, basically? Because Star Wars soundtrack is basically all John Williams, right? But what is your favorite score? Let's see here. I like Yoda's theme from Dagobah. There you go. There you go. So I'll leave that to you guys. I need to pull up something here. I need to pull up and get ready for what we're going to get into next. And this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. Fun, fun, fun. Fun, fun, fun. Fun, fun, fun. Let's see here. Stop. Fun, fun, fun. All right. Let's see here. Anybody else? You guys have a favorite score? Me? I think one of the most impactful, I'm going to go for the Return of the Jedi throne room duel between Vader and Luke. I don't have the exact name of the score for that, so I'm sorry, but that's my favorite. That's that. I like the thematics of it, the thematics of that, what's going on, the choir in it, all of that. I like a lot of them. I can't pick one. I hear you, Diddley Squad. That's hard. The tractor beam Chasm Crossfire has always been my favorite. Okay. Jedi's Fury. Is that the name of it? Thank you. If that's the name of it. I'm like, I couldn't come up with it. The Binary Sunset. Also iconic. That one right there. That's such a if you just play that, you automatically see that scene. And and maybe some of us has played that out in our minds, or like seeing the sunset going down. If you ever been that nerded out like that, I'm sure one of us has before. Thank you. Jedi's Fury. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes, the scene with Vader and Luke spar past the staircase. Yeah. Jedi's Fury. The Force theme song. Yeah, that's pretty good too. It's like, yes, it is. Everything is like, he is brilliant. He is fucking brilliant. And so there. That's the one where Luke shoots the stormtrooper, and that's the one does the Wilhelm scream. Yeah. Thank you so much again, J.I. Acup, for still lurking and supporting my channel. I didn't know you care that much. I mean, but how much do you really spend on your subs and stuff, and get likes and comments on your channel? Because I would like to see a little bit more of that come my way, unless you really need that for your funds there for your channel, for your fake channel. Mine is Rey's theme. I fall asleep to it. Yeah, I would fall asleep to it. It's that boring. Okay. Let's see. Duel of Fates, Battle of the Heroes, Jedi's Fury are the Holy Trinity. Wow. There you go. Duel of Fates, Battle of the Heroes. So you have the Phantom Menace with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Maul. Then you have the Battle of the Heroes. So you have basically the newly titled Darth Vader. So Anakin, still without the suit. So Anakin, but basically Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan. And then you have Luke versus Darth Vader. Awesome. That right there, impactful. Princess Leia's theme also is great. Rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. Yes, it is. Very soft. Like, some of it's very soft. I like it. You ever find it interesting how people rant on EU lovers, calling them purists, but Disney Star Wars is so widespread, people only know that we kind of have to be selective, so few know it. Yeah, so few know it. I agree. Laugh my ass off. Think Jacob prefers OG rather than his soon to be divorced fake wife. Wow. Nerd Migos, what's up? Oh, we got some more Vatos in the house. How are you doing? John Williams, hard pick one theme, so I'll cheat and pick the melody at the end of credits of Revenge of the Sith. Oh, wow. There you go. Yeah, that ending. Oh, it's so impactful because, you have the twins going off to be hidden and all this stuff. Oh, yeah, that's impactful on itself. Anakin's betrayal is my favorite. Let's see here. Wait, we are having fun on Gatekeepers Alliance member stream. Yes, we are. And you know what? Just for that, let's play
because there's a fucking gatekeeper.
Fuck the Fandom Menace.
Fuck the Fandom Menace.
There you go. All right. Let's see here. Oops. What's going on here? All right. So I wanted to share this. Congratulations to the GOAT, John Williams. Has impacted so many people's lives just with the thematics of his songs, of the score. And boy, we can listen to something and man, we're taken to the scene, and with the movies, especially back then, the music, how it is played, theatrically done, is just as impactful as what's going on in the scene. you can just listen to the score, the soundtrack of one of these movies. Like, for example, let's do just Star Wars, basically A New Hope, and just listen to it and know what's going on during the time. Because that's how impactful that is. And it's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. All right, remove this here. Okay, let's see here. Luke, looking into the sun, John Williams. I'm going to make this man career successful with my songs. Yep. Such a beautiful collaboration. And of course, you know, he did some score for Jaws and stuff like that. It's not just Star Wars. It's not just that. But I think Lucasfilm bringing in John Williams and George asking him to see what he can do and orchestrate, write and orchestrate for the thematics of his movies. Fucking brilliant. This and so many people badmouth George Lucas and act like, you know, he was dumb or an idiot or didn't do anything right and stuff. And there's so many things that he opened up for Hollywood being an independent with his fucking brilliance. And that's even his storytelling for Star Wars. That's the thematic storytelling through orchestrating by John Williams. It's also like the visuals. It's also the visuals. And if you don't believe me, let's go ahead and get to this one.
I'm telling you, this finale, it's unbelievable how tepid contemporary art seemed compared to the passionate quality of this finale. So you have this like huge, like it's like romantic nature painting, apocalyptic landscape of the lava. Lucas cross-cuts the destruction of the Senate chamber, and you have the destruction of industry going on. And then, after all these horrors, it is so beautiful. I'm saying, oh my God, nothing in the last 30 years in any of the arts has been produced as emotionally compelling and significant as the finale of Revenge of the Sith.
Yes, Soul Assassin. I am a music nerd. And fun facts about OG Star Wars Hero Laura is that my grandpa Chris Eala, yes, I'm giving his whole name. He is my Filipino grandparent, and the rest are Native American mix. And he basically, when he came here to the States, 14 years old, as a Filipino migrant, he migrated here legally. And World War II, I think it was World War II, was going on as he got older, and he was in college. And he enlisted and was he was a pilot, one of the first Filipino pilots for when the Army and Air Corps was still one branch together. And through that, he also played in the orchestra for the military. And then from there, he opened up his own music shop in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and repair instrumental. You know, you could buy your instruments there. You can get them repaired, all of this stuff, because he was so well versed in that. And of course, I played in the band in my junior high years. So I have like this rich history of like loving the franchise I love, being in the band. I got free instruments from my grandpa. My family also, I come from a family of like singers, like we chaglatas. Basically, we sing behind the drum, and they can harmonize and all this other stuff. So, you know, I was in choir. I was also on a dance team. I was also known for my art and got a creative memorial plaque when I graduated from junior high for my creativity and my contributions during the time. So a lot of things going on during that time for myself. So there's a little bit of history here for me. So yeah. But for music, like when I teach certain modalities of yoga, like now I'm teaching lift and flow, it's all music oriented as well. So you have to have the high up beat for the part of where you're lifting the weights. We get into cardio aspects. So you got to have like a certain amount of beats per minute, and teach how to move to the rhythm of that in a cardio aspect and stuff. So very, very interesting fact about me. So there we go. And Gordon, I see you here. How are you doing? Welcome. So let's get into our next segue here. Are you guys ready? So I'm going to go ahead and have you guys, if you need to fill up your cups, get something a little bit stronger to drink, feel free to do that. So I'll play this and get yourself situated. If you need to go to the refresher, feel free to do that as well. We are going to get into the special edition here for Caf Chat of Cringe Factor. So let's go ahead and where did that clip go? Here we go.
Someone asked me to give the best reason why someone should read the expanded universe. After giving it a lot of thought, here's what I have to say. The expanded universe respects the reader. In the expanded universe, Luke Skywalker's optimism continues where it left off in Return of the Jedi. He's fulfilled hope to the galaxy, just like Obi-Wan said he would, not like the Disney movies where he gave up on the Jedi or even the whole galaxy for that matter. The character you see in those movies is not Luke. Luke isn't a quitter. He's not a pessimist. He's a leader. He's inspirational. And he's always there for his friends in times of need. Another character is Han Solo. He's introduced to us in A New Hope as a loner, a man who cares only for himself and nobody else. But by the end of Return of the Jedi, that all turns around when he finally finds friends he can trust and a true love to spend the rest of his life with. And that's exactly what he does in the expanded universe. Han is a devoted husband and father to Leia and their kids. He loves his family above all else. In the new movies, Han turns out to be a selfish deadbeat dad who ran out on his family when things get tough. It's a complete 180 from the character that we saw from Return of the Jedi. Now, another thing the EU does is it rewards its readers. Attention to detail when it comes to continuity has never been done at such a level as when it was performed by the expanded universe. Avid readers will constantly be rewarded for their diligence as comics, novels, video games, and even children's books share connections throughout the entire series, making it almost a flawless, continuous story. And though it has its minor flaws, it's still the best overall story and continuity out there, period. That's what the EU does. It respects and rewards its readers. And that's the best reason you should give it a try. Long live the expanded universe.
So uncivilized.
Jedi is something that came a little later. When we started building Jedis, we had a lot of Jedis, and we needed more and more Jedis. As we were doing them toward the end, we ended up with a lot of Jedis that looked like people that worked at ILM, with these short little haircuts and looked like they stepped out from behind a computer. And so I was saying we have to get more exotic Jedis, and so we only have so much resources to do these things, but I do have Twi'leks because we use them quite a bit in other areas in the Senate and as background action. So I have a sort of a wardrobe and a setup of certain kinds of characters. So it was a way of reinventing some of those characters. And I had realized that we had a comic book that has a Twi'lek in it that is a Jedi. There's a whole series actually of her. And I said, well, why don't we put her in this? I mean, she's a comic character, but we'll just fit her in and have her be a background character because that's exotic. That's how the Twi'lek Jedi ended up in the backgrounds of these shots, was to try to use some of the work and effort that the guys in the comic book world had put into things and characters they had created.
So, if George didn't read the EU at all, how would he know about Ayla being in the comics? We'll go over a lot of that aspects as we go through. We are going to watch just a couple of clips between what I put together, so we don't have to listen to the annoying, like, nervous laughs. That's what it sounds like. Nervous laughs, like fake nervous laughs that he was making. So we don't have to listen to all of that, because then we'll be here forever because I'll be stopping. But then also too, I wanted to provide some information regarding that. And let me see here. Let me pull up something because I wanted to point out the disingenuousness of how he was trying to use the EU to counter that Gatekeepers Alliance are fake and frauds and stuff like that for taking the stance that everything that was created under George Lucas era of Star Wars is canon, was canon, is canon. And resorting to the Disney anti-EU shield tactics of just pulling up quotes from a certain source or a certain website. I won't even say it's source, but a certain website that hardly references where the quotes come from. I don't care about dates of when these quotes were made, more or less citing the source. I can read the whole article because context fucking matters, right? Like when you're doing research, whether it's for school or just curious about something, you want to read the whole information that's being provided. And what's interesting is, and I'll just go into my own history here, of my own historical history of being Native American and stuff, is that has been done against us, like in the schools. Like there's people I talk to, even here online and social media, they're like, I didn't know this aspect of Native history because they never taught it to us in school. So this is the same example. Is it only sharing so much and then people believing it? And we've come to a point in the society now that when you see something on the internet, whether it's a social media platform or it's Googled, people automatically think it's true. And that's pure ignorance. You need to go and look up further into it. And if it turns out to be true, then it does. But if it doesn't, then you learn that that was being disingenuous, and then you have more facts if that topic comes up again on what is true about it. And that's what that's about. I used to be, like I said, if you guys don't know my history, I've shared it many times before, I was a background investigator. So I'd have to go, like the person applying for a gaming license would send me their application with they have to divulge everything about their lives, records, if they have a criminal record or not, and where it would happen. And it was up to me to find out. And even if they didn't, I still ran their name through the system and stuff like that. And so I'd have to go look for the facts of this individual to see if they qualify for a license. And this is just the same exact thing. Like, question everything. It's okay to question everything, even if it's true, because then you're like, oh, okay, well, I was just not connecting so-and-so and this and that. That's a learning lesson too. So that's my words of wisdom to you. Is it narcissist? No. It is a person who has taught before, has done investigations before, and with life experience, question, research, because the more you know, the more you can, share with others, the more wisdom you have, and also you won't be played a fucking fool by other people. All right. So with that being said, hopefully you guys have your coffee and everything, or your strong drinks ready. But is OG the good or bad cop? Well, you guys, I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. And he says, I never learn. I'll never learn. He formed allies with Big Baby 2.0, and Big Baby is just being a baby. And you know what? That's fine. It's fine. I can care less who he's friends with and stuff. I'm not here to make friends with those kind of people, or make friends in, like, I wouldn't say make friends in general, but I'm not here to give my time to people like that. Like, especially when, they are just going to apply ad hominems and stuff like that. So anyways, here we go. Let me go ahead and set this up, because I always want to be prepared. Play this over. There we go. Is it the right one? There we go. Yes, here we go. So I'm only going to play, I think it's up to 5 minutes of this, and then I'm going to share something from Twitter, and then I'm going to share the slides as well that I made. I'm not going to go, I was going to just stop at a timestamp to talk about each, what he presented, and I just decided not to. So I took the information from here and made a PowerPoint. Yes, because that's what I do. That's what I do for you guys. All right, so let's get going, and I'm gonna stop and play. I'm gonna be in a different screen, so I'll come back and see what you guys are saying in the chat as well. So let's do this.
Constantly going after people,
Okay.
and it's not just me, but I have to address it at this point. I've just had Hey guys, Script over here with another video, and this is something I've been avoiding for a long time because I don't like to give attention to people that are just
I guess.
constantly going after people, and it's not just me, but I have to address it at this point. I've had enough, and I gotta just iron this out in terms of you guys and what you think I think of this. I know some of you see the Twitter exchanges and things like that. I just want to deal with it because, like, I've got some pretty clear, concise, sane, very objective thoughts on the Gatekeepers Alliance.
All right, so little history here. I am probably the one that spurred this video. Oh no, I'm being narcissistic. Ugh. But anyways, I countered him. No, I wouldn't say it's a counter. I corrected him on the Disney trilogy treatments that George Lucas made for Disney in the negotiations when they were negotiating the buyout of LucasFilm. I wouldn't say just Star Wars, but LucasFilm. And he was talking about it and saying, oh, well, it's George's sequel trilogy. And I'm like, no, it's basically Disney's. He wrote these treatments as a bargain, part of the bargain negotiation deal to sell to Disney, to up the price, to give them more of what they want and see if he can get more money. And then I also stated that even after the buyout, he stated that George Lucas said that he wasn't going to make any more films under Star Wars. So he wasn't going to make a sequel trilogy. He said it from early years. He had ideas. Yes, George always has ideas, right? He has ideas like in the early 80s and stuff like that. And then in the 80s. However, like going on through creating the prequel trilogy and all this other stuff, he said, I have nothing for a sequel trilogy. I'm not going to make it, blah, 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 blah kind of deal. And you look into the history of the negotiations, which took like over a year. Bob Iger was really sweetening the deals, really whispering in George's ear for the sale of Lucasfilm and all of that. And George, during the time, brought in Kathy so that once he sells, he has someone put in place that he felt he trusted, right? And then creating these trilogy ideas, these treatments, and treatments change. We know that. If you look at the history of like the OT and the PT, like Dooku was supposed to be an alien, a 4-armed alien. He ended up being a human, you know? So even in treatments, ideas change. That's how the creative process goes. Even in editing, things change. And so they're not set in stone. However, I've learned through the history of looking up through the creation of these movies, of these trilogies, like I have the Return of the Jedi. I have all of them, but I'm specifically going to Return of the Jedi, the making of that Rinsler did. I believe there's 2 of them, 2 making of. But what Rinsler did is that they were talking about sitting at the table, throwing around ideas for Return of the Jedi. But there's a caption on the page saying this section basically, and it's a green, the pages are green, like this pretty green. Well, anyways, the artistic visuals in my mind is playing at my conversation here to you guys, that this is not to be associated with canon. It's not canon. What is shared here is not canon to what was made. And so treatments are not canon until they're actually made, put on film, and sent out to the greater masses to watch. And so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going too long on this little thing here. So we'll keep going.
The channel itself has started to fade, or maybe I don't.
The channel has started to fade, but anyways, going back to my topic. Yeah. So that my back and forth about the DT, the Disney trilogy, is probably what offset this, because he sent me a tweet. I respected you. Now I don't like you. Wah, kind of deal. So I'm being hyperbolic there. But anyways, Gatekeepers Alliance, our channel is not going dead. We are just busy people. And aligning our schedules right now is not, not I wouldn't say going smoothly, but it's just we need to reassess our time frame with each other to do another live. And so we're putting videos down on here and stuff like that. However, we also work through our individual channels as well. So we're not, the channel's not going dead, nor is any of our own personal channels. And we also have our YouTube page, not YouTube, sorry, Twitter page.
I don't know if it ever really became a thing, but they were doing videos.
It has became a thing because you are so upset by us. You are so, and so are other people's. We became a thing. We are a thing.
Pretty consistently a few months ago, and now it's like one a month. It's like very rare.
Yes, that's our conversation. Once a month, whether live or putting a video. Sometimes a video will pop up, a few videos will pop up during the month. That's just how we're doing right now. And so there you go.
that specific channel actually posts a video. Like the last one they put out was 3 weeks ago, and then there was one a month ago, and then there's 4 months ago, 5 months ago. As a group, they've kind of faded. And I want to...
Nope, we are still a group. We are still pulling creative ideas and sitting in our little round table of what we want to do for content for the greater community of Gatekeepers Alliance. Yeah. So, you could have reached out and said, hey, how are you guys doing with your channel? But no, you want to sit here and speculate because you're trying to throw out an idea about like us being irrelevant, even though we have fucking triggered you. And so here you are making the video.
I want to explain why I think that is. Because, for example, like Mr. Grizzy, he doesn't do what at least 3 of the 5 do. He centers most of his attention on shills and does these funny shill videos. I've done a few of those too. It's not my thing to make that my thing, but I've done a few of them too because it is funny. And so that's generally what he does. I don't think he's ever really talked any crap about me at all.
Okay, so since, Mr. Grizzy hasn't talked crap about him, he's okay. He is okay. And I do have a super chat. Thank you so much, J.I. Akup again, for supporting the channel. Man, your obsession is really paying off for me. All right. That weenie, I get exposed way worse by Gatekeepers Alliance. And yet you only go after the woman at Gatekeepers Alliance. Isn't that crazy? All right. I'm being a bit sarcastic and hyperbolic.
I mean, he might have, guys. Let me know in the comment section. He's pretty funny, but he
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong. So if he has gotten after me, I can talk shit about him. And the funny thing is like he says, oh, they make fun of shills and they talk about fence riders and stuff like that. And, oh, here's Mr. Grizzy. It's fun that he does that because I do that too. It's okay when I do that and someone else does it. That's not directly making fun of me. You see what's going on here?
Focuses generally on just shills, like people that just absorb the content, and then absorb more content. And it is funny. Melvin, I think, has made fun of me, but I'm not exactly sure. I think he called me a fence rider or something at one time, but I don't.
So Mr. Grizzy and Melvin has called you a fence rider and a shill plenty of times. I think by the sound of this, and I'm thinking you guys are coming to the conclusion that he doesn't necessarily watch our channels to know exactly what they're about, other than seeing a few things, clips here and there, and what have you, because, man, he sure has no clue what he's talking about.
Really know a ton about his content other than some of the stuff I saw.
So he says he doesn't know a ton about his content, meaning he doesn't watch, nor does he know what's being talked about. He's been talked about, right?
A while ago, I thought was, again, kind of funny and, making fun of shills and all that type of stuff. But what happened was...
So he uses this image that was was made to have people, all these shills, these fence riders, everybody believe that this is Darth Melvin. And I think it's very funny because he's going to a false narrative rhetoric, right? Sharing something that's not true, but then he does his research. So I don't know. This guy, you can guess his authenticity with this, that he doesn't do his research, that he doesn't know what he's talking about factually. It's all speculative and irrational and misinformation.
Over the last few months, and I think it sort of appears, at least to me, that it coincides with the sort of moving away from the Gatekeepers Alliance channel and them kind of just sort of fading off, is they went from, particularly the other three, OG, Purist, and United Space Alliance, they went from being a part of the overall fandom of Star Wars with their criticisms, which is fine, and then took it to another level where they started to go after people that were essentially on their same side. And
all right. So I was never part of the full fandom of Star Wars. I've always been a part of George Lucas era of Star Wars. Make that perfectly clear. And going after our siders, yes, because those are the fence riders. Those are the ones that are like, oh, we hate Disney Star Wars. Oh, but this is good. So maybe it's getting better. Maybe Star Wars is saved. So he is missing that point there, and it's going over his head. And I believe he's one of them that basically has said before, and I may be wrong, but I almost feel like my gut feels like it's almost correct here. You know, that gut instinct that, oh, Star Wars is going to be saved. And but then again, he is rewriting the sequel trilogy because, I mean, who's going to rewrite the sequel trilogy if you didn't like what was being produced? Now, I understand if you don't like being produced, you want to see something different, right? But he is rewriting with those characters instead of thinking, oh, well, maybe there's a better option, and that's George Lucas era and everything that's written in before the buyout. And then why would you want to rewrite these characters when you can go back to Jaina, Jason, Ben, Anakin, the grandchildren of Luke, or not Luke, sorry, the grandchildren of Anakin Skywalker, right? Yeah, I would never, like, I don't like the Disney trilogy whatsoever. I'm not going to rewrite it with the same characters if I was going to do my own type of fan fiction. I am going to, you know, basically go back to the books and read. In fact, we are going through the new Jedi Order again. And in fact, I was going to try to make time here for a little bit of lore talk for the new Jedi Order, but I think we're just going to stick to this and then call it a day because there's a lot that I want to get through. You know, but then again, he doesn't think it's canon or was ever canon. So I wonder if he's assuming that these characters that he's using to rewrite from the Disney trilogy is what George wanted. And you would think that since he's all of a sudden sticking up for George, then why would he want to rewrite these characters that are not George's? Why isn't he trying to research the treatments that George sold and use those characters, the names of those characters, and come up with a completely different story? Anyways, I can make circles around that with questions and stuff to why. This guy has no foundation. He doesn't know what he wants, basically, or maybe he does, and it's just a different version of these Disney Star Wars characters.
They went after them with this thing that, like, if you don't know a specific detail about the EU, right, expanded universe, or you get it wrong, right, you post something that might be incorrect, right, that you're now a fake fan.
Okay, so you guys all know my channel. Like I said earlier in the beginning of the stream, each one of us in the Gatekeepers Alliance presents our YouTube channels in our own niche, basically, or niche, however you say that word. We have our own platform and how we are addressing George Lucas era Star Wars and shills and fence riders, right? I have never, and a lot of my back and forths regarding this is on Twitter X. So when I counter someone about getting the lore wrong for the EU, I don't call them a fake fan. The only time I've ever addressed that is if, you know, it turns into a heated discussion and this person starts calling me names. There's times where I resorted to insulting back. And so when I'm correcting someone, when I'm countering someone and stuff like that about the EU, basically George Lucas era of Star Wars, it's not necessarily the EU because, like I said, we all are about George Lucas era of Star Wars. It's not particularly the EU, but he is using this as a way of like, oh, I'm going to show that these guys are frauds and use the EU to do that because they focus on the EU. No, we focus on George Lucas era of Star Wars. And you guys know me. If you guys see me in debates on Twitter X, I'm pretty much civil. In fact, our back and forth about the Disney trilogy treatments, the treatments basically that George sold to them, to Disney, I was pretty civil. He's the one that went off the end, is like, I respected you, kind of deal. I never called him any names. I never said he was a fake fan. None of it. Now, everybody has their own way of Melvin. He will say that. And it's a trigger method. You know, each one of us has our own style of addressing and what we're going to say. But for myself, and I can speak for myself wholeheartedly, this is what I do. Now, he's specifically pointed out myself, Purist, and Tim. And we all have our own ways of addressing misinformation or correcting information about the EU or basically George Lucas era of Star Wars. All right, so let's go back.
So they went from going after shills, who again just absorb everything Disney does, and many of them just want to get.
I have been going after shills, fence riders, from day one, particularly on Twitter X. This guy, again, doesn't do his research or doesn't pay attention and hasn't paid attention since I reactivated my Twitter in 2018 or something like that.
Get their Disney packages of merch to promote and all those, and get access to the premieres. All those people that are desperate for that. They went from going after them, which is what I think Mr. Grizzy still does generally. I think generally Melvin still does that, to attacking fellow fans that have a lot of the same views, but they just don't know all the details the way.
Nope. It's not about if you have the same views and you don't know all the details. It is about, like I said, you, like people like you and similar people we call fence riders, who are like, oh, I hate Disney Star Wars for ruining the franchise. But then something comes out and you're like, oh, Star Wars is saved. Let's start promoting it. So it's that fence riding sitting thing that you do. It's not about if you know something or not. In fact, again, if you don't know and I correct you, it's all in good faith for you to learn and expand more on your knowledge. But it's not my fault that you get fucking butthurt about it.
They think that they should, assuming that they're right about their details. And what that is psychologically is narcissism. It's pure narcissism.
Oh, we're narcissists, you guys. We went from elitist to narcissist. That's fucking crazy. And thank you again for, man, I hope that you're not spending your parents' rent, that you guys don't all get pushed out onto the streets. But thank you again for the $2 super chat, J.I. Akam. I hate that Darth Melvin guy. He's in my nightmares. Well, I mean, hey, I can't help it if you're weak-minded and you take everything to heart. It's not my problem.
Like, to say that somebody can't be a fan of something because they don't have all of the supposed vast knowledge about.
We have never said that whatsoever. What's so fucking other? And you notice how this guy is presenting this without actual facts. Like, where are the screenshots? Where is the actual proof that we said that?
About that particular thing that you do that makes them fake, that is pure selfish, self-absorbed, narcissistic thought process. And it's gotten so bad.
And so he's coining that because he got fucking butthurt because he was fucking corrected. And so now all of a sudden, oh, you're narcissist because you know more than me and you want to flaunt it and make me feel insecure about myself.
Bad with them, and particularly Purist and United Space Alliance have done some videos about me. United did a really cringy, awful rap video about me.
That was fucking funny.
Where he just swears a whole bunch of times. And then they...
Oh no, he swears. Well, fucking Rop swears all the fucking time. Oh my God. Grow some fucking thick skin, dude.
They also have like clipped me and like mixed up clips. There's another guy, I can't remember his name, but he's sort of affiliated with those guys too. And he just like, he'll take like little tiny sound bites from a whole pile of my videos and make this like 3 minutes.
Oh my God. Yes. That crying image is perfectly for this video. Holy hell. You just like really showed your pure authentic self about crying about every little thing. Grow some fucking thick skin. You know, people are going to say shit about you like you're doing here now on me and these guys, which I think is funny as hell, but grow some thick skin. When you become a YouTube personality or any type of social media and you put yourself out there for the greater masses, and this is what I say about actors and actresses, right? You're going to have people say some crazy, weird, bad things about you because they don't agree with you. They don't agree with your ideas. But is it in the world? No, it's fucking not. You can address it like I'm doing here and have some laughs about it, or you can just move on. You can just move on. But here you are making a video with annoying, like nervous laughs and crying about it. Okay. Just because you were fucking corrected.
Thing of totally out of context stuff. And some of it's hilarious because some of it, and there's going to be one thing in particular he makes fun of me for, quote, and lumps me in with theory on this too. Literally George Lucas himself said. And they make these claims that like George Lucas this and George Lucas that. And
yes, we talk about George Lucas era of Star Wars. We're not talking about Disney or the mouse. We're talking specifically about George and his creativity and his impact on Hollywood, because we fucking respect him. We talk about his Star Wars, and that's including the EU, because the EU was birthed under George Lucas. It was his idea. He wanted the stories to be told through the novels as well, through the comics as well. He wanted to give the fans something fun to do with interactive, and that's the games. That's why he created these sub departments or sub studios to LucasFilm, like Lucas Licensing, which is not just about merch. It's about where the Lucas Books department is in that. And then he also created Lucas Arts. He created, ILM, Skywalker Sound. There's a lot of things he did, and they're all a part under the umbrella of Lucasfilm that George created. Now, that is fucking amazing. This man who does not want to, adhere to Hollywood standards became independent because he wanted to tell his story, and he wanted to make sure that when he brought in authors that they told a story that is likened to what he thought should be told for Star Wars. And of course, when someone writes for you and your ideas and the perimeters that you set and the rules that you set, they're not going to tell the exact story that you're going to tell, because it's being individual. We're not all of the same mind. We're not hive mind. Neither are these authors for George Lucas. But we'll get more into that as we come along.
And a lot of it has to do with the EU, right? And how the EU...
The EU basically makes up probably about 85%, maybe close to 90 of the Star Wars lore. There's a lot more that goes on in the Star Wars historical timeline than just the movies. And there's a lot more like lore, rules, and expansions of like Force Ghosts, of the Jedi, of the Sith, of, you know, sectors of the galaxy itself. And it all began with Weston Games as well. Now, fun fact here, and again, we're going to get into this here in a little bit. George Lucas loved Weston Games so much that he gave copies to authors so that they have a source to look at when they created the novels. But let's move on.
EU is canon, and that's all they say is if you don't agree with that, you're an idiot.
Yes, the EU is canon. And of course, idiots who come up with this basically Disney, Star Wars, Disney shields anti-EU rhetoric. Yes, they are fucking idiots if you don't do your research and see. And if you've never read and seen how George has approved the EU to be a part of the greater canon as a single continuity, he's even said many times that the EU or the novels are a part of the saga. The saga is the movies, right? The Star Wars saga. Everything's in there. He has had some of his employees correct his statement about a parallel universe, that everything is a single timeline, and that's what their focus was. And he's also said before that, you know, even though those stories are different than what maybe he would have told, he thought they were brilliant. He liked them. And I wish there's so much I was trying to pull up. I wish I would have pulled up that exact quote, because there's a quote similar to that. And I think that quote is cherry picked from that, about him saying, oh, it's not exactly what I would do past that timeline. But he thought they were brilliant. He worked with them. But we'll move on. We'll get more into that.
And they have to be lying, because
no, but you are just pissed off because you were corrected. And you want to make assumptions and do misinformation about Gatekeepers Alliance under this narrative. And we'll get more through it once we get to the PowerPoint.
The vast swath of George Lucas and George Lucas affiliated people saying what they have to say about the EU is so extensive that there's no way they wouldn't know that.
You've only pulled up information from the Medium website, and we'll get more into that. You don't even know about the corrective statements that were made about the EU not being a parallel universe or separate from the movies, or you would have included that in your research.
So they're just saying, they're again in a narcissistic way, they're saying, I know everything about the EU, so therefore EU is canon.
So he's running with this narrative. Oh, you guys are narcissists because I'm going to pull this assumption of thinking what you're thinking when you address me. Man, the mental gymnastics behind that.
Even though there's this huge array of information saying that clearly it is not, okay?
There's no information that it says it's not. In fact, when you look at the history again of the historical timeline, actions do speak louder than words, and there are plenty of statements saying that it is.
There's a time when I was kind of wavering about 6 months ago, but now that I've done the research, forget about it. It's
research. You only pulled up a single timeline on a website, and that's it. And these quotes, I will show how these quotes are so out of context. I'll share that example here pretty soon.
It never was, but they say it is because they have the knowledge that you don't. So they can make the claim that you're a fake fan and they're better than you because it is canon and they know more about it than you, even though it isn't canon, right? And it's really sad because
we have never, ever said that we are better than anybody else, especially myself, because I may know more than you. I have shared information on there because my channel is about George Lucas era Star Wars. I share lore here and on Twitter. And yes, I do correct, I do counter, I give facts, but that's not about being better. It's about making sure that you are getting the information so you don't keep on making the same error. That's being compassionate. That's giving a person a bone to course correct what they thought they knew, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get these super chats and stuff like that. I have a lot going on here that I don't want to miss. All right, let's see here. I have member for 8 months from Silver Ogre. Free milestone. Woo! Yes, congratulations and thank you for the continued support. Let me scroll down. You are amazing. And he attends my book club this Sunday. We're having one, so I'm just letting you know. $10 super chat for keeping the lore accurate. Thank you, OG. Thank you so much for continuing to come and support. Member for 20 months. All right, Brandon the Awesome. Thank you so much. The EU is canon. Griff Trooper, deal with it. Yes. And let's see, is there any more? Make sure I didn't miss anything here. I'm just coming back into the stars, the starred stuff here. All right. I think I got everybody. So you guys are friggin' amazing. Thank you so much. Let's get back to this because I only want to show this. This is like we're almost done here.
They've actually committed channel sort of or social media suicide in a way.
We committed social media suicide. No, we didn't, because if we did, no one would be talking about us. We wouldn't be here talking and supporting the platform that we all co-created.
Like, they've completely shot themselves in the foot because they've essentially said, I'm the best, you're the worst, no matter who you are. Oh, but listen to me and react to my content and watch my videos. And
well, yeah, kind of, that's what you're doing. But no, we didn't say that we're better. Nowhere have we said that or implied that. But thank you again for still continuing to follow us and listening to whatever you listen to of our content, which is minimal. That's fine. But it shows that you don't know what you're talking about because you haven't done your research.
And the regular fan is like, if I'm going to be told I'm a fake fan because I don't know every detail about some EU story.
He's still applying that narrative. That's fucking funny.
Or I question the validity of some of the EU stuff as it pertains to George's views, then I don't want to be involved with this person. And that's essentially why I've been ignoring them, because I actually initially, I think I followed all three of them. I'm pretty sure at one time.
All three of them. So he never followed Melvin. He never followed Grizzy. It's all about me, United Spacers Alliance, and Purist, right? And I didn't get the clip, but what's funny is, I'm pretty sure that my discussion with him about the treatments, the sequel treatments that George made and sold to Disney is what triggered this. Pretty sure. Almost positive.
On Twitter. But they changed, right? It was almost like we're not getting...
Nope, I never changed. I've always had the stance. I've always called out shills. I've always countered false information, misinformation, corrected people, been in debates. Nothing has changed about me. Nothing. You're just pissed off because I corrected you.
Getting attention, and so now we're going to shift from the shills to actual fans that agree with us.
No, to fence riders. And Disney Star Wars, I don't see Star Wars fans. I don't really see as George Lucas era Star Wars. They like the Disney faux lore
for the most part, but they don't know everything we know, so we're going to attack them so that we look better to others.
Correcting is attacking. There we go. Correcting is attacking.
But the problem is the others see that and say, well, dude, you guys are saying that if I don't follow everything you say and agree with everything you say and know all the knowledge you know, I'm a fake fan. So why would I want to be part of your social media presence? Why would I want to support you? They don't understand that they're...
the thing is like adults know that we're not going to be friends with everybody. And that everybody's not going to agree with you. That's even for like social media personalities. I wonder, this guy has never learned that, right? This guy has never learned that.
Actually killing their own channels by doing this, right? Because like there's a wide array of
channel, because he said channels, because he's not talking about specifically the Gatekeepers Alliance. He's talking about the channels now. Killing own channels. My channel is alive and well. life has me a little bit busy, so I'm not producing the lore videos, and I'm trying and all that I want to on a regular basis. But my channel's not dying. My channel's still growing slow and steady, but it's not a reaction channel. It's more based on George Lucas era Star Wars, sharing and upholding George Lucas era Star Wars with sharing the lore and stuff. Now, my live can be partly a reaction type thing because of Cringe Factor. We're doing it here now. But my whole platform is not reactionary. Reactionary does, like when you have a reactionary channel, whether it stays in a particular element, I guess you could say, or theme, it's still going to grow significantly because people like reaction. They like the drama. They like all that. I get it. And Melvin and Mr. Grizzy, the reaction against shills and anti George Lucas era bullshit is very entertaining, and I love it. I love it. And good for them. But my channel is the way it is, and I'm happy where it's at. So making assumptions on, oh, your channel's dying, or it's because of this and this and this. No, it's not, sweetie. It's not. My theme and my theme and my platform is just different. And that's the same with my friend Matt Wilkins, who basically his channel is about gaming, like game boards, play and stuff like that. And he has other little elements and George Lucas era Star Wars. His channel's not dead. It's just not the type of channel that you feel should that gains a lot of attention, and that's fine. You want to do the kind of channel because you have to know what you're talking about. Under George Lucas era Star Wars, you have to do the thorough research, all of that. But anyways, let's go on.
A wide variety of people. Listen, I'll make fun of somebody like Jacob because it's funny. But at the end of the day, he's not a fake fan. He's definitely a fan of Star Wars. He just likes stuff that's kind of dumb, in my opinion, or is really dumb, in my opinion, right?
Oh my God. So you're calling your buddy dumb for basically liking what he likes. Okay.
It's the same with anybody. Everybody's in a different place, but they latched on to this idea that they're the only real fans because, again, they've spent a lot of time in the EU and
no, we have not latched onto that whatsoever. And you never had a conversation to what my theme and my platform is about, and nowhere in like pull up the evidence. And what you're sharing here, like me right here, the common thing to put down the creator to defend Disney, Star Wars, Kennedy. That is true. I am upholding the integrity of George Lucas era Star Wars and what George created. That's what I do. I've done that since I changed my YouTube, or I even changed my YouTube and changed my Twitter towards that platform theme.
have that knowledge of the EU, and then they lie and say that it was always canon.
It has always been canon and always will be canon because it was made and approved under George Lucas with his guidance and even with his involvement. And he's even said it's a part of the saga and his company treated as such. But you never present the arguments that counter what you shared, and we'll go through that.
So that they are the arbiters of truth based on a lie. And I'm going to prove to you what a lie it is. And let's get into this. This is going to shatter their lie claim that they constantly make on Twitter, especially OG, but the other guys too.
Especially OG. So this is like countered towards me specifically. And again, like I said, it probably came from when I told him that basically the sequel trilogy treatments were basically written as a bargaining chip for and to raise up possible value for the sale of LucasFilm. Yeah. So this is where it stems at, but especially OG. And, you know, ever since this video came out and the interactions on Twitter, like, he's never tagged us, any of us or anything. And when like Purist has tagged him in a rebuttal statement, he doesn't address him. He only addresses me. Isn't that interesting? No, I'm not a victim. I'm not going to say, oh, well, he's picking on the woman. But still, you got to think, right? But anyways, let's get going on this.
That the EU is canon and always has been. And you idiots that don't know anything about the EU aren't real fans, okay? This destroys that idea. It's fake. It's lies. It's their way of trying to say that they're better and superior and their opinion is better and superior. That is literally what it is. That's all it is, based on a lie. So let's get into this. I did what I could, by the way, to keep this in order of the timeline of quotes from George, because I kind of want to show you guys how it kind of developed over time. So when I was doing this research, these quotes were not in order. So I had to like go back, get the exact place that the quote was made, because a lot of people just kind of threw it on forums and different things. And they didn't really give the best backup information for it. And I wanted to make sure we had that and have it in order so you can see how George was thinking the entire time, how his thoughts maybe progressed and or changed or not, right? Or not, or stayed the same, so that we can get a very, very vivid, objective, factual place in this. So
he has used what is called, it's like the Medium website. And when you scroll through the website, it has all kinds of quotes that have been cherry picked and is out of context and used out of context. And they may or may not be cited, and there may or may not be a year associated with when that quote was made. So doing my research, I was like, I need to make sure, like I pull up at least a couple of things to counter and show how these quotes are made, that are being shared or being taken out of context. And when I was looking at that site, I was like, holy shit, and going through and clipping all the quotes that he shared on this video, it's basically cut and paste to him. Yeah, translation of Griff Trooper words. I'm just going to cherry pick quotes, correct. And it's just a cut and paste, and I'll share this example right now, and we'll get into it. We will get into it. Let me go ahead and pull it up. I thought I had it saved and ready to go, but I didn't. My mistake. We are going to go well over the 2-hour mark. We are, and that's fine. All right, let's see here. Let me find it real quick so you guys are in the chat, and you'll see here exactly what I'm talking about. All right, let me see here. Pull this up. Make sure that I have the remove. Let me see here, and stop screen share with that. I wish there was an easy way where you can do multiple screen shares so you could just go from one to the other, but that's not the case, and that's fine for now, I guess, but it's just a little annoying. All right, let me go ahead and take this off here for now because we don't need it. All right, so this quote was what I pulled off of his video. Mini wars between the Jedi. Oh, wait, no, that's not the right one. It's not the right one. Let me see here. Let me go ahead and take this out. I thought I was at the right one. Let me go ahead and remove and scroll down a little bit more. Let's see here. Where's the one? I know I did share. That one too is significant, but it's, let me see here. Here it is. It's right below. Just right below. That one too is significant as we get to it. And I already have that already ready to go. All right, let's see here. Add to stage. There we go. All right, so this is what I screenshot here from his video, because I said I didn't want to subject you guys to his annoying laughter and voice. Yeah, I'm certainly not going to worry about that. And the fans, they They generate their own stories, their own ideas. They have their own fantasy life that goes around the movies, and that's fine. But I try to keep away from all that. I don't even read the offshoot books that comes out based on Star Wars. So he is talking about, so here's what he's talking about. This is what it's pulled from. And I'll read this here. So, example of script trooper getting context of a quote wrong. 1999 BBC Barry Norman film night interview of George Lucas regarding the Phantom Menace release. So they're talking about the fan and their criticism towards the Phantom Menace and their own headcanon and all that. Griff Trooper thinks the question was about the EU. First image is from his video. It is about the fans' reaction and them making up their offshoot stories from it. Second image. Stay tuned for Caf Chat Cringe Factor. So we're here now. Yes, I read that because. So here is a portion of this here, and I shared the website. You guys can look it up. And so he asked these questions like, Barry says, will you be influenced by the reaction to this film critically and publicly when you devise the next one? And he's like, probably not, so he talks about that. And then so Barry says, and you'll weep all the way to the bank, basically, because George is like, I'm going to do what I normally do and write what I want to write. And so George Lucas basically says, yeah, I am certainly not going to worry about that. So he's talking about the fans' reactions. And the fans, they generate their own stories, their own ideas. And so here's the quote. Now, if you didn't know the question and what was said before, you wouldn't know the context and you would think that it is about the EU. Isn't that crazy how this narrative goes, how these people take this narrative out of context and really apply it and think it's about the EU and try to show or do anti-EU rhetoric against the fans? And yeah, George did George even wrote forwards for numerous EU books. Yes, we'll get to that. I showed Griff Trooper the 2004 quote when I linked him to the video, but he conveniently never responded to address it. No, he won't. But he will address me. It's funny how he addresses me, but no one else. And especially you, because you did a lot of the walking, a lot of the research for this, right? You did a lot of the research for this. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring up the portion that I pulled together for every screenshot of Griff Trooper's video, because like I said, this is a lot more easier. I did a lot of work for this, but it's a lot more easier than addressing and stopping and pausing and having to share images and what have you. All right. Context is the key. Right, meow. All right. So this is from his video right here. So gatekeepers alliance are frauds. Gatekeeper alliance based on a total lie. So he is basically saying that the collective of this channel is all about the EU. No, it's not. It's about protecting the integrity of George Lucas era Star Wars, and that's including the EU. Now, George Lucas era means everything that's made under George Lucas's watch when he owned his company before he sold it out. Context triggers me, yes. Let's see here. It's funny how a lot of these anti-EU channels always cherry pick the same sources for their arguments that go nowhere, right? Let's see. They are frauds because they don't accept him. Okay. So basically, here is this here, and this is from if I missed a couple of the quotes that was shared, I apologize, but I try to get everything that was presented here. So, and he said that he started from 1999 all the way forward, and he tried to put everything in timely order, but I have realized that he didn't, because he didn't do his research fully. But anyways, I digress from that. Let's get into this. Yeah, This is the quote he shared. Yeah, I am certainly not going to worry about that. And the fans, they generate their own stories. And so this is the Barry Norman one that I shared. And then I did go back to Scran's. And yeah, White Star in 1999, right? I know. I shared the clip from Scran's here about the directive that George said. Part of the job of the director is to sort of keep everything in line. And I can do that in the movies, but I can't do that for the whole Star Wars universe. The whole Star Wars universe. That's George Lucas talking about like keeping everything in order and how he can only keep the movies in order because that's where his expertise is. He's not an author. I miss John Talk Star Wars. Yeah, he really did some great stuff, Melissa. He did at the time. So he had to bring people in to help him keep track because his franchise was expanding so much. It was expanding significantly. All right, let's go to the next one. This is from the TV Guide one. So basically this interview, and I try to pull up the whole context of this, and I couldn't find the whole context of this, the whole interview. So if anybody can, please share it with me so I can share the whole context of this. So I just broke it down as best I could because, again, context matters when you share quotes, right? I shared that with the Barry Norman BBC interview, right? So TV Guy says, yet a novelist have written Star Wars sequels using the same characters and extended their stories. He goes, oh, sure, they've done outside my little universe. Well, his little universe is the movies. It doesn't mean that it is a parallel or it's separate. It just basically, he compares these universes in the context of, like, I work here in the movies while they work there in the department where the books are, like Lucas Licensing, or they work here in LucasArts. But in reality, everything that's created from those different departments, those different mediums, are all one continuity. So George Lucas says here, the sequels were never really going to get made anyways, unlike 1, 2, and 3, where the stories have existed for 20 years. The idea of 7, 8, and 9 actually came from people asking me about sequels. And I said, I don't know, maybe someday. Then when the licensing people came and asked, can we do novels? I said, do sequels, because I'll probably never do sequels. And he is right. And he said that all the way up after the buyout, that he will never do sequels. He has never done, and he never will. And he never had doing sequels in mind. All right. Let's see here. Let me go ahead. I want to go ahead and make this image bigger. Oh, no, that's in the way. All right. So this one right here, and there's a lot of context going on in here. And I have 2 clips from the video. And I tried, like I said, I try to get everyone and in the timeline that he presented and with counters from George or corrections from George and his company. Question, do you supervise the department of all the off-movie stories? After all, Star Wars exists in books and comics. And he goes, I try not to think about that. I have my own world in the movies and I follow it. And this goes back to what I shared earlier here, where he says that he has a director to keep track of what he can't, right? So we have that. And then we went through George Lucas and he signed off on each point when he got done. He wrote me a little note that said, great job. I can't wait to see it. So basically it's going back to like him reading and going through that and stuff. And then that George Lucas signed off on that and stuff. And here is the full context. You could barely see it. Let me go ahead and expand this a little bit more so I can see it. So this is the same quote here, but the person cherry picked it to make it sound like George was just passive against it. Do you supervise the development of all the movie stories? After all, Star Wars exists in the books and comics, and here is the full context of that. Answer by George, I try not to think about it. I have my own world in the movies, and I follow it, of course, that the people who expand this universe work for me, but I can't follow up on all the they produce. So again, he hired someone who did it. It's not saying that it's separate or it's not canon. He's being honest with, like, you know, I hired people to keep track of it for me because I'm only keeping track of the movies. And then even the continuity keepers do keep track of the movies as well for George. So the next one. There are two worlds here, explains Lucas. Haha, here we go. There's my world, which is the movies, and there is the other world that has been created, which I say is parallel universe, the licensing world of the books, games, and comics. While this is from Leland in 2005 in correcting the statement on people assuming that the movies and the EU or the novels and what have you are separate, parallel universe suggests that each universe can go in a separate direction, which really isn't the case with regards to the EU. The EU is bound to what is seen in the most current version of the films and by directives from George Lucas. So correcting that, it's all one single timeline in the canon. All right, let's go on here. So here we have another one here. And question, can you quote any good stories other than the movies? No, I don't think so. Laughs. Well, no one's expecting him, and that doesn't mean quoting something doesn't mean it's not canon. There's so much lore written in Star Wars. Of course not. All right. Going down to the bottom one of that. The books are in a different universe. I've not read any of them. And I told them that when they start writing, I wouldn't read any of them. And I blocked out certain periods. They couldn't touch where the real story happens. So George is the creator. He is the foundation of the Star Wars universe, right? He is the creative. So they all know that George creates the foundation and they expand off of it. So if George doesn't want you to write in a certain timeline because you know he's going to go in there and open it, it is his prerogative. It is his franchise, his story to open up that timeline first. That doesn't mean it's not canon. And I'm going to read the bottom and then I'll read these two that I shared here. How much does the expanded universe influence the movies? As I asked him, Lucas leaned back back a moment and said to me, very little. So if you know the EU, if you read it extensively, or you don't even have to, the Thrawn trilogy is an example. You would know that there is influence of the EU in the movies. It's very little, yes, but it is used. It is used to help world build, to connect, to create these threads between, to connect them together. But that sentence there, or that question 2 alone, and his answer does not state it's not canon. You have to do the walking to learn. If you're just a moviegoer, a casual fan, and watch the movies, then you probably will not even know. But once you start in the EU and you start reading, you're like, holy shit, this is in the movies, or man, you know, or whatever. You'll see the interconnection. When the PT started coming out, George collaborated. Now he opened up that, after he started opening up the PT timeline, they started bringing the authors in. George collaborated with the writers in that timeline between the PT movies and stuff to create a cohesive timeline between the movies and the books. So I'm going to read these here that I shared, quote unquote here. And this is from Leland Shee. The thing about Star Wars is that there's one universe, she says. Everyone wants to know stuff like, where did Mace Windu get that purple lightsaber? We want to establish that there's one and only one answer. And underneath from Leland Shee, and this is 2012. Unlike other franchises that reboot with most every incarnation, Star Wars has proven itself over the years to be a singular universe. Everything outside of the films was collectively known as the Expanded Universe. And the Expanded Universe didn't get its name until later. It was never called the EU in the beginning, but it was still the EU, basically, in theme, in how the approach was and stuff like that. As an extension to the same universe as the film. So it was collectively known as the Expanded Universe, serving as an extension of the same universe as the films. What? If something happened in a book or comic, it could potentially affect everything else happening in the universe. Any discrepancies that resulted would be resolved or retconned. Story for retroactive continuity, i.e. changes from the previously established continuity across the board to try to create something, some consistency. Leland Chi, 2012. 2012. All right, going on. We have some slides to go through. There's a few of them. Again, these on the left are his, and then of course the counter are the corrections to that, the clarifications to that. When he first agreed to let people write expanded universe books, he said, I'm not going to read them. And it was a different universe, and that he wanted to keep away from the time periods of his saga. He jokingly complained, however, that now when he writes a script, he has to look through an encyclopedia to make sure that a name he came up with doesn't come too close to something in the EU. So in the past, he probably had that information, that idea of not coming close to the movies. However, one of the biggest multimedia projects that was created in the beginning was Shadows of the Empire. It came out as a book, comics, games, and it had its own score. And he liked it so much that he thought about actually creating a movie from it. That's between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi is just a year. He changed his mind and decided to have the EU written between the movies, around the movies, and go into the movies. Go into the movies. All right, let's read the bottom. The novels and the comic books are other authors' interpretations of my creation. And rightfully so. Like I said, there's no hive mind. They're not going to think the same. However, George is going to set the perimeter and set rules and ideas of his mythos, and veto or approve if he wants it as part of his Star Wars, right? Sometimes I tell them what they can and can't do exactly, but I just don't have the time to read them. They are not my vision of what Star Wars is. And of course, like I said, his vision versus the authors are going to be different. However, he sets the perimeter. He sets the rules, the guidelines, all of that, and approves and disapproves if the novel is close to his vision. Now I'm going to read these here. And like, again, you have to do the legwork, reading and researching the interviews with the authors, with their interaction with George Lucas says a lot, right? So you have to get into those aspects too. You have to dig deeper into these here. So basically, George reading, and I thought I had the Sue Stoney on my computer or on my phone, and I can't find it, but there's a quote from Sue Stoney talking about him reading the comics as well. And season 4 had first in terms of a story that was adaptation of the published comic Slaves of the Republic. And so this is a little statement here, and this is Filoni. George does read the comics, and I think the Clone Wars comics catch his eye because obviously he is working the Clone Wars. He also recognized Henry Gilroy's name as the writer of the comics. So he reads the comics. It's very clear he reads the comics as well. He has read some of the books. He has brought in Timothy Zahn to celebrate the success of the Thrawn trilogy and all of that. He reads the plot points and the perimeters of the stories that are going to be published. He also vetoes books and everything that he sees that doesn't fit his vision. And of course, we have this.
Jedi is something that came a little later. When we started building Jedis, we had a lot of Jedis, and we needed more and more Jedis. As we were doing them toward the end, we ended up with a lot of Jedis that looked like people that worked at ILM, with these short little haircuts and looked like they stepped out from behind a computer. And so I was saying we have to get more exotic Jedis. And so we only have so much resources to do these things, but I do have Twi'leks because we use them quite a bit in other areas in the Senate and as background action. So I have a sort of a wardrobe and a setup of certain kinds of characters. So it was a way of reinventing some of those characters. And I had realized that we had a comic book that has a Twi'lek in it that is a Jedi. There's a whole series actually of her. And I said, well, why don't we put her in this? I mean, she's a comic character, but we'll just fit her in and have her be a background character because that's exotic. That's how the Twi'lek Jedi ended up in the backgrounds of these shots, was to try to use some of the work and effort that the guys in the comic book world had put into things and characters they created.
All right, so there's a little bit from George Lucas himself right there. And when his museum's coming up, and it's about the visual storytelling, and that includes comics and stuff. So his interest is a lot visual and stuff, and that's what he read a lot more. And that's why you see like inspiration of different characters being brought in to his movies and stuff like that. So let's go on. Canon refers to an authoritative list of books that the Lucas licensing editors consider an authentic part of the official Star Wars history. Our goal is to present a continuous and our unified history of the Star Wars galaxy, and so as far as the history does not conflict with or undermine the meaning of Mr. Lucas's saga of films and screenplays. So there's a lot of care going on into linking and not, overriding and retconning the movies as well with these stories. These stories are to expand on the story of the films. And in fact, I wish I pulled it up, but basically George Lucas got the world record for the most stories coming off of the movies and stuff like that. So, and this is from Sue Stoney, and this is Star Wars Gamer number 6. Oh, Star Wars Gamer number 6 making another appearance here. Now, the new developments, even in the remotest corner of the Star Wars universe, are always approved by Lucas himself. The continuity editors send him checklists and potential events, and Lucas checks yes or no. When Bantam wanted to do backstories to Yoda, Dupree said George Lucas said that was off limits because he wanted him to remain a mysterious character. Wow. If the EU wasn't canon, then that wouldn't be a problem, right? Because that would just be an offshoot story. It wouldn't be historical facts of the Star Wars galaxy of who Yoda is, right? But George has made available some time between the start of episode 4, when Han Solo is a young pilot on the planet Corellia, and the end of the prequel. So we're working with that now. And this is John Seabrook. So basically he's setting timeline perimeters, and then he's setting, perimeters on how much he wants one of his characters expanded on. Why? Because it is canon. When asked about novels and whatnot, he says, and this is from Griff Trooper's channel, that video, those are another author's interpretation of what I have created and not to be taken seriously as far as what is really going on in the Star Wars world. Well, he basically says don't share anything about Yoda because that would be taken seriously. And he didn't want fans to do that because that affects canon. Now let's go to the bottom. I don't read that stuff. I haven't read any of that, the novels. I don't know anything about that world. That's a different world from my world. When I said other people could make their own Star Wars stories, we decided that, like Star Trek, we would have 2 universes, my universe and the other one. They try to make their universe as consistent with mine as possible, but obviously they get enthusiastic and want to go off in their own direction. So that's the Starlog quote. So let's go ahead and read these 2. Basically, everything except those items marked with an Infinity logo, i.e. the Star Wars Tales comics, is considered is considered canon. So basically, Sue Stroney is telling you, and this is 2003, what is canon and what isn't. So if it's marked with the Infinity's logo, it's not canon. And if it doesn't have the Infinity's logo, then it is canon. And this right here from Chi, whoops, what number am I? There we go. George is certainly not bound by the EU, though he is certainly open to using things created in it, Ayla Secura and Coruscant name, for example. On the other hand, the quote you provide makes it sound like the EU is separate from George's vision of Star Wars universe. It is not. The EU must follow certain tenets set by George through the films and other guidelines that he provides outside the films. And this is Leland Chi in 2005. And so this is in response to the Starlog quote. I don't read those, basically. Let's move on. Now I'm going to read these and read that. So I already shared this, but it's relevant here, and everything else that's presented from the past ones are relevant. And now there have been novels about the events after episode 4, which isn't all what I would have done with it. And of course, but when you look at the Disney, I'm going to go to the treatments one of the treatments that he written for Disney about Leia, rebuilding the Republic, what is now known as the New Republic, and Luke restoring the Jedi Order and all of that. It's basically what he shared in his ideas that he gave to Disney is exactly nearly the same, with exceptions of Ball and Talon and stuff like that. Basically the same direction that the authors went. Now, the events in it may have been different, and how George seen them rebuilding and creating the New Republic and the Jedi Order and all of that may have been different, but the idea is still the same. The idea is still the same. But that alone, this quote is not an indication that it's not canon. It's just sharing that different ideas come from different people. There's no hive mind going on here. Now let's read the rest of them. But there's 3 worlds. There's my world that I made up. There's the licensing world, that's the books and the comics and all kinds of stuff. The games, which is their world. And then there's the fans world. So he's talking about like he's not talking about in universe. He's just talking about where these ideas come from and what he calls them. And the fans world, which is also very rich in imagination, but they don't always mesh. All I am in charge of is my world. And again, here we go. He basically brought in people to help him keep track of all the other things, the other department. That doesn't mean it's not canon. This is Star Wars, and I don't make a distinction between the Clone Wars series and the films, and that's irrelevant really here, because Clone Wars is a part of the timeline, just like the EU. So going on, there's a lot going on here. This one's a heavy one, and this is where the misinformation comes from again. Actually, a lot of this has been taken out of context, but still. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat, though. And I need to take a sip of coffee. Let's see here. I also use a large wooden walking stick. I have even more in common with Mr. Karuk, also Mr. Thom as well. I just clicked on that to read. Okay. 2003 Clone Wars and Republic Comics are real Clone Wars. Clone Wars was EU also, so that doesn't mean anything, right? I know. And we'll get more into that. So this is about the Sith. So, there was war between the Jedi and the Sith. Basically, there was war between the Jedi and the Sith. Well, that never happened. That's just made up by fans or somebody. What really happened is the Sith ruled the universe for a while, 2,000 years ago. Each Sith has an apprentice, but the problem was each Sith Lord got to be powerful. And the Sith Lords would try to kill each other because they all wanted to be the most powerful. So in the end, they killed each other off and there wasn't anything left. But anyway, there's a whole matrix of backstory that never really came out. It really just history that I gathered up along the way. So he's saying that he gathered a lot of the Sith, telling the mythos of the Sith, evolved as he wrote it, right? It's all based on backstories that I've written, setting up with the Jedi, what the Jedi were, setting up what the Sith were, setting up what the Empire was, setting up what the Republic was, and how it all fit together. I never really got a chance to explain the Wheels part. And then he goes on, many wars between the Jedi and the Sith in the Old Republic era were told in games, books, and comics. The current Lucasfilm canon didn't explore this area. So this down here is not a quote from him. This is just something that, something that was added in the site that comprised all these quotes. All right. So what to make of this? Does it mean the EU wasn't canon? No. What this conversation is from another interview about the Phantom Menace, about the Sith of that time. And I have it right here. It's not about Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. And if you have read the EU, you would know that what he said here is true. For example, the Brotherhood of Darkness and the evolution into the Rule of Two. And what's very interesting is George met with the creators, the comic creators and the authors to expand on these stories, to expand on the Rule of Two, expand on the inner fighting within the Sith and what really went on. And I meant to put it on here, but there is conversation of the authors talking about their collaboration with George on creating this. Again, this is only about the Phantom Menace. And this middle information here in the middle of the screen it tells all about that. And it's from the interview. Everybody said, oh, well, there was war between the Jedi, the Sith, and this elaborates all on that. This is this quote here. Well, that never happened. That's just made up by fans and somebody. Why? What really happened is the Sith ruled the universe for 2,000 years ago. Each Sith had an apprentice, but the problem was each Sith got to be powerful, and the Sith Lord would try to kill each other because they wanted to be the most powerful. So in the end, they killed each other off, and wasn't anything left. So the idea is with that when you have a Sith Lord and he has an apprentice, the apprentice is always trying to recruit somebody to join him because he's not strong enough, usually so that he can kill the master. That's why I call it the Rule of Two. Ooh, so it's about the Rule of Two, how the Rule of Two was formed. Not necessarily saying that there isn't war. It's about how the Rule of Two was formed in general among the Sith. So again, this is taken out of context. There's only 2 Sith Lords. There can't be any more because they kill each other. They're not smart enough to realize that if they do that, they're going to wipe themselves out, which is exactly what they did. Brotherhood of Darkness. There's a lot of that. And going back even further than that in the Sith history. And I know there's a lot of Old Republic fans that are now probably talking in the chat. I'm not looking at the chat right now. But he is describing how the Rule of Two was created, not that this is an indication that the EU wasn't canon. And like I said, there is interviews with authors talking about how they collaborated with George on creating the Rule of Two, creating on why and how it had occurred, how there was inner fighting. And then to expand more on it, as the story started developing towards Revenge of the Sith, because Revenge of the Sith is called Revenge of the Sith for a reason. They were getting revenge against the Jedi because they are natural enemies and they have been fighting against each other for thousands of years, right? beyond thousands of years. So here is something from 2004, I believe. And this is the beginning and the creation of Revenge of the Sith and the ideas of the Sith and why they're getting revenge and all of that. So why did the Sith want revenge? And this is what George said. The Sith are the national enemy of the Jedi. As George Lucas describes it, the Sith were once in control of the galaxy 1,000 years in the past. Unfortunately, the Sith's hunger for conquest got the better of them. So many Sith Lords were trying for ultimate control that it led the infighting among the ranks. Such intervening struggles were exploited by the Jedi Knights of the era, and they were able to turn the tide and defeat the Sith. So they seen the Sith trying to gain control, and they came in, seen their weaknesses, fought them so that they wouldn't take control and rule the galaxy and stuff. So the galaxy wouldn't be subjugated again with the Sith control, right? In episode 3, the Sith are ready to reveal themselves. There's no more need for subterfuge, no more need to sulking in the shadows. Darth Sidious, the Sith mastermind, will make good on a 1,000-year plot to finally avenge the Fallen Order, destroying the Jedi Knights and retake the command of the galaxy. So there you go. So there was fighting, there was conflict, all of that. And then I'm gonna read the bottom here in the blue. The Sith are the arch enemies of the Jedi, George Lucas explained, and for a long time, they ruled the universe until the Jedi came along and got rid of them. So they took back control. They created war against the Sith to end their rule. That's why they wanted revenge. So there was conflict, there was war, there was this conflict of the Sith ruling and subjugating the galaxy and stuff, and the Jedi coming in to take that away from them so that the galaxy can find peace. So there you go. But none of this is indication that the EU wasn't canon. All right, we are starting to come to a finish here. So I'll read this from Griff Troopers, what I clipped here, and then I'll read here, and I'll show you here. You guys can see it in front, but we'll just go through this. I've written everything I've done. Yeah, so he's written a lot. I just didn't pull everything he's written, but I pulled the two main ones that people know. I should have pulled the ones that people don't know. So he was a ghostwriter. He's a writer for, of course, Star Wars. And then, of course, for Shatterpoint, he contributed to the prologue. He wrote the prologue for Shatterpoint. Again, this, I've written everything I've done, does not indicate that it wasn't canon. But Lucas allowed for the expanded universe that exists parallel to the one he directly oversees. Though these stories may get his stamp of approval, they do not enter his canon unless they are depicted thematically in one of his projects. So they're talking about the canon, the tier canon, the hierarchy of canon, because again, the continuity, they're all one timeline. The series, The Clone Wars, at least to George, is not EU. So at least to George, not EU. But again, they have their own tier in canon, right? So this doesn't mean that the EU is not canon. So I'm going to read this. There's quite a lot of material in the expanded universe. How did you create the essential chronology with so much material out there? Is everything canon? Did you have to consult the keepers of the holocron, the keeper of the holocron? And this is an interview with Daniel Wallace, the Jedi Path source. This comes from Times interview. Officially, everything in the Star Wars publishing universe is canon, though George Lucas retains the creative privileges to override everything he wants. LucasFilm employs a keeper of the holocron, namely Leland Shee, to keep it all straight. In this Star Wars is unique from most other franchises. DC, for example, keeps the Batman comics separately from the Dark Knight's movie, and Akram Asylum, the video game. So there you go. So he's pointing out that everything is canon. So here you go. Here's the hierarchy of canon. G canon, the 6 G canon, George canon are movie canon, the 6 Star Wars films. T canon basically was created later, a lot later, like even after, it was created after 2008. Star Wars, the Clone Wars only, but T canon means television canon, not George's canon, television canon. But then, okay, so why isn't like the Ewoks and droids cartoons in there? George made them. Why isn't it in there? C canon, all the expanded universe, books, comics, video games, etc. So these are all canon together. S canon basically is quasi-canon. Some pre-Zon works and alternate choices in video game. So this is quasi-canon, S canon. And then non-canon, basically anything in infinities and alternate endings to video games. So official canon, S is quasi, so it's kind of there, kind of not. Non-canon, C, T, G, all canon. And down here, I'll read. When asked if the G and C level form a separate and independent canon, she responds by stating that both were part of a single canon. There is one overall continuity. And this is 2004. I'm not going to read these here because this right here just goes back into the Clone Wars as if that is meaning that the EU is not canon and all of that. So let's go on. Let me take a drink. So basically, this is right here, like talking about like George did with the films and the Clone Wars was pretty much his universe. She said, so basically T canon is not basically G canon. He didn't really have that much concern for what we were doing in the books. He trusted them to keep everything aligned. That's what they hire for. Like George said, he doesn't have time and he can't keep up with everything. So that's why he brought people in to take care of that. So basically, these are pretty much things that were repeated and also corrected, clarified, all of that. And so, and some of this basically is counters. Let me see, where do I have to go? Okay. Some of this basically proves that everything's canon still. It's just that over time, they create a hierarchy of canon. And basically, this right here was just an in-house way of keeping track of what is made where, not keeping track of canon and to what is canon or not canon. And I shared these clips here before. I'll read this again. The thing about Star Wars is that there's one universe, Chi says. Everyone wants to know stuff like, where did Mace Windu get his purple lightsaber? Again, we went through this. Right here, we went through this about what is canon or not canon and what is marked with infinities means it's not canon and so forth. Now, we'll get to this right here. So we would have very interesting skirmishes because we had a bunch of stuff that became, for the fans, pretty much canon, head canon. And so this right here was inserted by the person who wrote this because that's not exactly what was being done here. Whoops. And about what happened after Return of the Jedi. What different places in the galaxy were called, lots of different things. And if he was proposing to do something in the prequels that contradicted that, we would have a long debates, which usually ended at least after the first season session with, I don't care. This is what I'm doing. So that's George. I don't care. This is what I'm doing. And maybe after the 4th or 5th session, sometimes, all right, maybe we can change it to this way. So basically, this negotiating tables, let's keep everything canon, let's keep everything consistent, what have you. And again, we have books here that are prequels and sequels to the movies, and even a comic that is basically leads into the Revenge of the Sith. George knows more about Star Wars than we do. He doesn't see the expanded universe as his Star Wars, but as ours. I think this has been mentioned previously, maybe in other places, but it's not new info as far as I remember. Of course, he knows more. It's his idea. It was birthed from him. And the top thing doesn't say that it wasn't canon. It just says that he has the creative rights to change if he wants to. The creator can change. He's even changed his, with his special editions, he's even changed things around in that. So there you go. And then we have all of this here, this is 2008 by Rothman. We set perimeters, Rothman says. It had to be an important extension to the continuity, and it had to have internal integrity with events portrayed in the films. So I've read this before. And there's another 2008 by Leland Shee. Lucas approves everything important in addition to the canon. The ambitious story beats contained in the new games, The Force Unleashed, were permitted only after he signed off, and spent hours talking to the developers about the relationship between Darth Vader and the Emperor. And then, of course, it's 1997. So I went, a lot of this goes even way before 1999. In new developments, even the remotest corners of the Star Wars universe are always approved by Lucas himself. What? So I've read this before. The continuity editors send him checklists for potential events. So we have that again. That's all relevant here today because that's something that they kept all the way up to leading into the buyout. And of course, George basically says, and I'm going to read the bottom sentence here. Today, it is an amazing, if unexpected, legacy of Star Wars that so many gifted writers are contributing new stories to the saga. What's that saga? The movies. And he says that they are gifted and creating amazing stories, basically. And basically, Howard Rothman, president of licensing, this is 2008. We've stuck to a very close branding strategy for the past decade. This is Star Wars. Individual movies come and go, as do TV shows, video games, books. They all contribute to the lore of Star Wars, but in the end, it is one saga. That saga is called Star Wars. We've wanted to send a clear message to our fans that everything we do is part of an overall saga. One saga. One saga, George says that they contribute stories to the saga. Rothman basically reiterates that. And down on the bottom here, 2015, the original saga was about the father, the children, and the grandchildren. That's not a secret to anybody. That's even in the novels and everything. So he is reiterating that it's all one saga, even in that. And that's where you can find the grandchildren. And if you do your research some more, you can find out that George really was interested in the grandchildren and making sure that how he wanted their story to go was implemented. And that's including who Anakin is, basically, and switching stories between the brothers and stuff like that. So there you go. There you go. No Mace lightsaber is purple because it's blue and red mixed together. Yeah. There you go. All right. So that's the end of this. This clarifies a lot. A lot of this stuff is taken out of context to say that, oh, it's not canon because this is what George said, but he never used the word canon to say it's not. And the parallel of universe statements have been clarified by the company that it is still one canon, one continuity in the canon. And he presented none of this. He didn't even go back and look back at sources to see if there's any counters to or corrections to debunk the narrative, or at least make sure the fans got it clear that everything was made to be a single continuity in the canon. We don't use a Disney. Yep. So there you go. This is a special edition of Cringe Factor. We will get back to our new Jedi Order lore talk next week. I'm excited for it because we're pushing on. We're getting more into the state of the Vong or the state of the New Republic and all of that. And I'm so excited about that. So if you're a channel member, the Sunday, 6 p.m. book club, see you there. And if you're not a channel member, become one and come join us. So I have 60 people in watching, whether on Twitter and here on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, as always, if you're catching the replay, let me know in the comment below. And as always, you guys have a great day. And may the force be with you. And I will catch you guys later.
I'm telling you, this finale, it's unbelievable how tepid contemporary art seemed compared to the passionate quality of this finale. So you have this like huge, it's like romantic nature painting, apocalyptic landscape of the lava. Lucas crosscuts the destruction of the Senate chamber, and you have the destruction of industry going on. And then, after all these horrors, it is so beautiful. I'm saying, my God, nothing in the last 30 years in any of the arts has been produced as emotionally compelling and significant as the finale of Revenge of the Sith.
That's just a rumor that has kind of crawled up through fandom for years and years and years. I know that Tim met George Lucas. They had a sit-down conversation before the first book was done. I know that as with any of the novels, everything is cleared through LucasFilm, and 100% for anything as major as a love interest being developed for Luke. That's a decision that George would have given a yes or no on.
Someone asked me to give the best reason why someone should read the expanded universe. After giving it a lot of thought, here's what I have to say. The expanded universe respects the reader. In the expanded universe, Luke Skywalker's optimism continues where it left off in Return of the Jedi. He's fulfilled hope to the galaxy just like Obi-Wan said he would, not like the Disney movies where he gave up on the Jedi or even the whole galaxy for that matter. The character you see in those movies is not Luke. Luke isn't a quitter. He's not a pessimist. He's a leader. He's inspirational. And he's always there for his friends in times of need. Another character is Han Solo. He's introduced to us in A New Hope as a loner, a man who cares only for himself and nobody else. But by the end of Return of the Jedi, that all turns around when he finally finds friends he can trust and a true love to spend the rest of his life with. And that's exactly what he does in the expanded universe. Han is a devoted husband and father to Leia and their kids. He loves his family above all else. In the new movies, Han turns out to be a selfish deadbeat dad who ran out on his family when things get tough. It's a complete 180 from the character that we saw from Return of the Jedi. Now, another thing the EU does is it rewards its readers. Attention to detail when it comes to continuity has never been done at such a level as when it was performed by the expanded universe. Avid readers will constantly be rewarded for their diligence as comics, novels, video games, and even children's books share connections throughout the entire series, making it almost a flawless, continuous story. And though it has its minor flaws, it's still the best overall story and continuity out there, period. That's what the EU does. It respects and rewards its readers. And that's the best reason you should give it a try. Long live the expanded universe.
Another happy landing.